Another useful fishing cast, very similar to the reach cast, is called the aerial mend. And the aerial mend, well, if you fish rivers, you know that you're going to have to put mend in your line plenty of times to get it to fish correctly. Well, an aerial mend is you make your line land with that mend in, not add it afterwards. Very useful cast, and we'll see why in a moment. First, how do you do it? Well, it's kind of like the reach cast. You're going to make the same moves as the reach cast. You have a bit of slack here. You're going to aim your cast where you want your fly to land. You're going to do your reach cast, but you're going to move your rod out and back. And the out and back makes your line land in a curve, which is the mend. So your fly lands with a beautiful mend in it in the air. Hence the name, the aerial mend. It's a pretty easy cast to do. Your rod doesn't go up and down. It just goes out and back. And the couple of things you want to practice is how to get big mends and little mends. And that is literally how big is your out and how little is your out. So here, if I want to do a big aerial mend, I'm going to do something like this. Target my spot, shoot the line, big out, big back. That's a huge mend I've put into the line. And sometimes you want a little bit more subtlety in the mend. You don't need to mend it so big because maybe you've got a narrow channel. And in those cases, you just make much more of a subtle out and back. It's out and back. That's all you need, and that puts a nice little mend into it. So that's how you influence the size of the mend. And the other thing you should practice is how to locate where your mend is. Like, do you want your mend at the leader? Sometimes you do. Do you want the mend in the middle? Do you want the mend by the rod tip? So sometimes you're going to have to influence where you put the mend. And really, that's a timing. That's a rhythm thing. When you finish your final forward cast and you stop the rod, the bigger the gap between you stopping the rod and moving it to the side, the closer to you the mend will be. So I want to put a mend in right by the leader and I go bing, bong, bang. It's literally bing, bong, bang. If I want that mend to be closer to me, like the middle of the line, bing, bong, bang. And then if I want the mend right under the rod tip, bing, bong, bang. Right? So that pause between the bing and the bong is the influences of mend. I know it's silly language, but it kind of makes sense to me. I like that. And the other thing you should practice, you should be able to mend to the right side and you should be able to mend to the left side because you just don't know which direction you want to be putting mends into it. So that's the aerial mend. It's a great cast to practice. Now, why would you use it? Well, sometimes you might fish a sinking line. You cast your sinking line out, your line lands, starts sinking, and then you decide to try and mend. Well, you're too late because the line's underwater, it's sunk, so the mend is useless at that point. Way better to land with a mend and get it to fish correctly. But the one I alluded to in the beginning of this episode was the tricky fish. If there's a fish really tight to the bank and you cast a fly at the bank and you let your fly land, the action of you mending after it's landed will drag the fly. It'll either scare the fish or pull the fly out away from the bank. Way better to make the cast land with the right mend in it so the fly lands and it's gobbled up by that big trout. And that is the cast called the aerial mend.